The most transformative habit a human being can cultivate is the habit of observation, pure, conscious observation of oneself. This does not require any tools, no external rituals, and no belief system. It is simply about being fully present with your own inner working. Just as you observe the changing weather without interference, you can learn to observe your own mind, your own emotions, and your own bodily sensations without becoming entangled in them. This act of inner watching brings a distance, a healthy space between you and the chaos that often defines human existence. When you observe, you are not trying to fix, judge, or manipulate what is happening. You are simply becoming aware of it. For most people, their lives are run on autopilot, repeating thoughts, impulsive reactions, emotions that rise and fall like waves. They are dragged by these tides, without realizing they are not the waves, but the ocean underneath. Observation allows you to remember this deeper identity. You begin to see that while thoughts come and go, while anger rises and falls, there is something within you that remains untouched, always watching, always still, always still. This habit of witnessing is not about intellectual understanding, it is experiential. You do not need to read books or gather theories to experience your own awareness. Just sit for a few moments and watch a thought come up. Don't analyze it. Don't push it away. Don't follow it. Just watch. In that watching, you will begin to notice a new dimension of stillness opening within you. A space where clarity resides, where the noise begins to settle. And in this stillness, great transformation is not only possible, it becomes inevitable. When observation becomes consistent, it slowly begins to dismantle the false walls we have built inside ourselves. You start noticing the patterns. How a certain tone of voice triggers you, how a small delay in attention causes irritation, how you rehearse the same worries again and again. But now, because you are observing, you are no longer blindly following. The reaction is still there, but there is also a watcher. That watcher is your freedom. The more you watch, the more you detach from these old cycles. You are not escaping life, you are finally entering it with awareness. Observation is a habit that strengthens with practice. At first, the mind will resist. It wants to stay active, distracted, constantly chasing. But the more you return to simple awareness, of breath, of thought, of feeling, the more powerful this habit becomes. It is like sharpening a sword that cuts through illusion. It does not suppress life, it refines it. You begin to live more consciously, more authentically, and with a greater sense of control, not over the world, but over yourself. Most people live in a constant loop of reaction. Someone says something hurtful, and immediately anger rises. A situation doesn't go your way, and frustration takes over. Without realizing it, you are being pulled in every direction by external forces, like a puppet whose strings are held by the world. This is bondage. Not because someone is imprisoning you, but because you are caught in a cycle where your inner state is completely dependent on what is happening outside. And as long as the world controls your reactions, your freedom remains an illusion. Reaction is mechanical. It comes from conditioning, from past experiences stored deep in your system. If someone touches a raw nerve, you react not to them, but to the memory they have triggered. It is like pressing a button on a machine, you always respond the same way. There is no space, no reflection, no awareness. You are not choosing your response. You are simply repeating old patterns. This kind of living can only lead to suffering because you have no real control. You are driven, not deliberate. But when you cultivate the habit of observation, everything changes. Instead of reacting, you start witnessing. You start witnessing. There is a moment, a pause where you notice what is rising within you. You see the anger, the fear, the judgment begin to form, but now you are not inside it. You are watching it like you would watch a storm gather on the horizon. In that moment of watching, something powerful happens. You create space. That space is not empty. It is full of intelligence, full of possibility. In that space, you are free to choose a conscious response instead of a habitual reaction. This shift from reaction to observation is where true growth begins. You are no longer a slave to situations because your inner atmosphere is not dictated by outer circumstances. You respond to life with clarity rather than compulsion. Someone insults you, and instead of exploding, you observe the impulse to react. That simple act of watching breaks the chain of reactivity. You are no longer on autopilot. You are awake. And in that wakefulness, you begin to live as a master of your own energy, your own emotions, your own mind. Observation transforms inner chaos into clarity. When you respond from awareness, your words carry weight, your actions carry intention, and your presence carries calm. You are no longer swinging between extremes. You are centered. This centeredness is not a product of suppression or control, it is the natural consequence of awareness. You begin to experience freedom not as a concept, but as your own living reality. Because real freedom does not mean doing what you want. It means not being pushed around by what you don't want. And that begins the moment you stop reacting and start observing. One of the greatest misconceptions people carry is the belief that they are their mind. I think, therefore I am, has become a widely accepted truth, but it is a profound misunderstanding of human nature. The mind is a beautiful and powerful instrument, yes, but it is not you. It is something you have just like your body. Your thoughts are not your essence. They are phenomena that arise and pass away, just like the breath. But because people have become so identified with the movement of their mind, they live in constant turbulence. Their identity shifts with every passing thought. Observe this carefully. When anger arises in the mind, you say, I am angry, but this is not true. What has happened is, anger appeared and you claimed ownership of it. The same happens with sadness, with fear, with anxiety. You take temporary states and make them part of your identity. But if you could just pause and observe the anger without claiming it as yours, something profound would be revealed. The anger is there, but you are here watching it. You can see it, you cannot be it. This is the beginning of disidentification from the mind. When you learn to separate yourself from the mind, you start discovering a deeper layer of self, one that is not disturbed by the mind's movement. Just like clouds float through the sky without staining it, thoughts pass through your awareness without affecting your true nature. You may experience confusion, but you are not confused. Confusion is an experience. The one who sees the confusion is untouched. In this clarity, suffering begins to lose its grip on you. You no longer drown in every wave that rises. You simply let it rise and fall, knowing it's not the ocean itself. The mind is filled with noise because it is constantly collecting experiences, judgments, comparisons, desires. But once you understand that you are not the mind, the compulsion to believe every thought fades. You no longer take everything so seriously. A thought arises, I'm not good enough. But now, instead of collapsing into it, you observe and say, that thought again. Just like watching a bird fly past your window, you watch the mind chatter, and it no longer has the power to wound you. This is not indifference, it is inner freedom. This separation between the observer and the mind is not a dissociation, it is a powerful connection to your deepest self. You become grounded, steady, and rooted in a stillness that the mind cannot touch. Life continues around you, and thoughts continue within you, but they no longer rule you. The real you is revealed in that stillness, the silent witness behind the noise, untouched by the stories the mind keeps spinning. This discovery doesn't require belief, it only requires awareness. And once you taste even a moment of this truth, you will no longer mistake the mind for the master. From the moment we are born, layers of illusion begin to settle upon us. Ideas of who we are, what we should become, what is right, what is wrong. These illusions are not necessarily false in the societal sense, but they are not rooted in your direct experience. They come from the outside, from parents, teachers, culture, media, tradition. Over time, we wear these layers so tightly that we forget there is something far more real beneath them. The mind becomes a mirror that only reflects borrowed beliefs. But awareness, the simple, clear seeing of what He has the power to strip away these accumulated identities. Most people never question the personality they have become. They say, "This is just how I am," without realizing they are living a version of themselves built from other people's impressions. When you bring awareness into this structure, you begin to see the cracks. You notice how your need for validation was created through years of comparison. You see how your fears were not born from danger, but from stories told to you in your childhood. You begin to realize what I thought was a mean is actually a collection of impressions I never truly chose. Awareness works like a light in a dark room, not by fighting the darkness, but simply by being present. When you begin to observe your beliefs, patterns and reactions, not as truth but as phenomena, you start to disassemble the false foundations of your identity. You stop saying, "I am an anxious person," and instead you say, "Anxiety arises in me, but I am watching it." Ah, this shift may seem small, but it cuts through years of illusion. It gives you space to question what you once accepted blindly. Not to rebel, but to discover what is authentically yours. This dismantling is not destructive in the usual sense. It does not break you down, it removes the masks that never belonged to you in the first place. Awareness does not cause chaos, it reveals the chaos that was always there beneath the surface. Suddenly, your habits are no longer invisible, your triggers are no longer mysteries. The toxic cycles that ruled your life are now exposed, and what is seen clearly can no longer control you. This clarity does not come from effort, it comes from simple, sustained observation. As awareness deepens, you start recognizing how often you operate from fear, from ego, from a desperate need to protect your false self. But now, because you are watching, you begin to step back from the drama. You no longer believe every thought that passes through you. You no longer dance to every emotion that tries to seduce you. Illusions begin to dissolve, not through resistance, but through the gentle fire of attention. Awareness does not attack, it melts. It doesn't punish, it liberates. And as the illusions fall away, what remains is not emptiness but presence, raw, real, and fully alive. People often seek transformation outside themselves. They believe that a better job, a new relationship, a different location, or even a new spiritual path will change the quality of their life. But no matter how much you rearrange the external world, if your inner atmosphere remains chaotic, restless or unconscious, no real change happens. You may feel relief for a moment, but soon the same dissatisfaction returns. True transformation begins not with a shift in the world around you, but with a shift in how you experience yourself within. This internal shift does not come from forcing the mind or controlling your emotions, it comes from awareness. Noticing how you think, how you react, how you interpret situations. Noticing how often your mind runs toward the past or anxiously into the future. Just the act of noticing begins to change everything. When you become aware of your inner patterns, they start to loosen their grip. You are no longer completely at their mercy. This awareness doesn't scream or argue, it simply shines light. And that light is enough to begin the process of transformation. You don't need to fix your mind, you need to understand it. You don't need to conquer your emotions, you need to observe them. Every habit, every fear, every limiting belief you carry was formed unconsciously. But the moment you become conscious of them, their power begins to dissolve. This is not about judging yourself. It's not about saying, "I shouldn't feel this," or "I should be better." It's about sitting with your inner world as it is, without running, without denying, Transformation starts when you stop trying to be someone else and start becoming fully aware of who you are right now. When you turn your attention inward, you begin to see that your suffering is not always caused by others or by the world. Much of it is born from your resistance, your expectations, your own unexamined thoughts. This realization is not a burden, it is freedom. Because if the source suffering lies within, so does the power to dissolve it. You no longer wait for the world to change. You start to change your relationship with the world. That shift from outer blame to inner responsibility is the beginning of real transformation. This journey inward does not require dramatic rituals or years of isolation. It only requires your willingness to become conscious. Every moment becomes an opportunity to notice. Am I acting from awareness or reaction? Am I driven by fear or clarity? These simple inner questions create profound outer shifts. Slowly, without force, your choices become wiser, your responses calmer, your energy more stable. The world around you may remain the same, but your experience of it becomes radically different. And in that shift, a new version of life begins to unfold, one that is born from within.